can't hear this. Okay. All right. Can you guys hear me and then respond so I see if I can hear you?
Yeah, we hear you, Jeff. Can you hear us okay?
I can now.
All right. All right. I'll call to order the May 12th, 2022 Public Works Committee. Can I get a roll call?
Chairman Weggie,
Here.
Alderman Gould,
Here.
Alderman Shelton, absent at the moment anyway.
Yep.
And Alderwoman Parker Tice, here.
All right. Any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move into item 3A, citizen comments. Nobody in the room.
No, nobody's raised their hand for comments.
All right, great. We'll move into a report of the committee chair and alderman. A couple things. So I know Alderman Gould has a hard stop at 6. He's coaching a team of like 100 girls in softball, so I appreciate him doing that. And Alderman Shelton will be here, I believe, either dialing in virtually. So if we don't finish at 6, we should be able to hold the quorum to keep going when Jeff has to get off. So not the most traditional meeting, but it is what it is. Just 2 questions I had for Eric as part of my report, both dog park related. One is, do you know when the water faucet's going to be fixed down there, or what the problem is, or any information on that? Okay, great. And then I also, did you get my rumor question as well? Yeah, that's all there is. Okay, all right. I have no firmer comments. All right, Nancy.
I have 2, well, I guess really 3 things more directed at Dan. And the first is just sort of a comment, and Dan and I have emailed about it, but Ladue paved the west side of McKnight, and we have not paved the east side of McKnight, and it's not on our plans. I'm not saying that we should pave the east side of McKnight at this point, but it sort of makes it look ridiculous that we haven't coordinated with the neighboring municipality, and half the road has a new overlay, or just a new surface, not a full paving, but a new surface, and our side doesn't. So we sort of look like the poor municipality that couldn't afford to pave McKnight. So I'm just commenting on that. The second one is, we had a ward meeting this week, and we, as great as the walkway is to McKnight, from across McKnight into Tillis Park, the cars don't stop. And a few years back, and I think I've asked about it a couple times, is there any way we can get those little skinny signs that say state law, stop for pedestrians and walkway? I know they don't fit on the round, but I don't know if it can be a separate sign, if there are rules about the size of the road. But if we could look into that again, I would really appreciate. Okay, can they not be a separate sign? But not on the sign. But if there's, because it seems like in different places around town, they're either attached to the sign or they're separate. But it would be nice to, at least someone driving by can be, you know, at least see a sign that says they're breaking state law when they fly through the walkway.
And guys, I can't hear any of the responses, just so you know.
Okay. It was a quick one. He said he'd looked into it before. Okay. And then the last one, and maybe if you'll address this in your report when it's your turn, Dan, but we had a resident talk about the Kelvins with the new lights along Manchester. So if you would just address that in your report, I would appreciate. About the street lights along, the new street lights along Manchester, and the Kelvin, the blue light coming out of the Kelvin, that they're the
Barry's email.
Yeah. So thank you.
All right, thanks. Jeff, any comments or report?
Yeah, well, I did send my response to Dan, I think, in email regarding the Kelvin discussion. So just in case you haven't seen that, you should have it. And then the other question that I had, and I don't know if this is actually more of a public safety situation or not, but I did have a complaint from a resident that El Keeley is parking their vehicles on Rogers Parkway on the north side of Florence. So the area that isn't being disturbed or rebuilt, which kind of limits their pedestrian access to the pathway from Florence Avenue, which a lot of people still do. So I just didn't know if that was something that either was a public works follow-up, Dan, or not Dan, Eric, or more of a public safety issue, but I thought I'd bring it up here. And that's it.
All right. Let's see. Do you need Dan to respond to that? The Keeley issue on Florence?
I mean, I guess as long as they acknowledge that they're aware of it and that they can find out whether or not they can park in other places. That's the only
I guess the
response.
question would be is if it's even El Keeley, because there seems to be, 2 or 3 contractors working there. KCI is doing work, Keeley's doing work. At one time it was Ameren, it was Spire,
Yeah, I just passed by it and I've seen it for 2 days now as well. And it is the El Keeley truck.
But
with
it
the big
could be that they're doing the sewer work on the north side of Florence, because there are sewer inlets on both sides,
No, they're just parking their vehicle on the path on Rogers Parkway.
On the path or in the green space?
On the path.
Okay, then yeah, that's a big deal. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so we can look into that and get them off there?
Yeah, I can notify Navigate, and then since Keeley's our contractor, but Keeley's also a sub to KCI, who's doing work for MoDOT, so we'll just have to notify him. We have contacts at Keeley, so it shouldn't be a big deal.
Okay. All right, we'll move into item 5A, City Administrator Report. Doesn't look like we have anything. All right, move into 6A, Dan, Public Works.
Okay. Just gotta find the section. Had a whole list of different miscellaneous things to update on. Regarding Rosalie Avenue, the STP project, that the change order with Horner Schifrin, we approved that. There's a final deductive change order. We're working with Krupp to get that turned in, and that would be the last closeout document with MoDOT. And then Meyer Electric, they've been notified about the meter installation. They've spoken with Ameren. They were waiting when Luth was out of the area, so now that Luth's out of the area, hopefully they'll get that meter installed, and that would energize those lights. Also related to Luth, they did open up Rosalie over by the post office. So the section between Brentwood Boulevard and Swim Club, that opened up on the 5th of May. And now they're able to use their little access road too. So the access road that is a temporary access road that connects the dead end of White to Swim Club, they commenced using that as a haul route this week. And they'll take the spoils, the materials that they excavate out over by Starbucks heading east, and they'll take that and dump trucks, travel down Swim Club, and then westbound Rosalie out to Brentwood Boulevard. So they know they're supposed to have a drop dead date of May 27th on that agreement. It reminded them of that, and they said that they would work up till that point, and then they might want to ask for an extension is what they said. I don't know if that would come to this committee or to the full board, but they said they wanted to see how it's going. This is really their first decent week of weather that they're able to use that haul route. And then they've removed the detour signs and other stuff, so hopefully there's no confusion on Rosalie as well as Eulalie. They do have the spotter out there that we talked about, so that's pretty much it for Rosalie. Switching gears, Litzinger and Helen, just to make you aware, which I know was in the weekly report, but for this committee's knowledge, the restoration took place in that intersection of concrete slabs. That's all done. I think it looks fine, so there's no further action. Just to keep track of these next few items, so the access ramp, curb cut at Lee Wen. Since we completed that work at Litzinger and Helen, we actually are over at Yorkshire Lane Court. So that eastern fork at the north end, if you go up Park Ridge, that cul-de-sac area, there's like 6 or 7 slabs that they're probably at least 20, 25 years old. They're probably same age as the subdivision. Those were cracked and we filled them in over the years and they're just too cracked up. So we're actually doing a full removal and replacement. We got a concrete pour tomorrow. As soon as we're done with that work, then we might be able to switch over to this. We're just trying to do the road work that's a little bit more important than some of the other stuff. It's not that we want to lose track of it, it's just we don't have the manpower to do everything. Same thing with Mary Kay Court. I know on that one, we're still waiting for Bomarito, who's the contractor working for Missouri American. There's still service lines to transfer whenever they get done with that. Then there's still the site restoration after they retire their water main. Looking at maybe June that they would have their work done, June, July is what the last update is. And then the stormwater report, we met with Gonzalez companies this week on the 10th. There's 48 locations out of 217 reported concerns. Gonzalez will prepare cost estimates and do a prioritization matrix, and then they'll be able to present that information probably around the July Public Works. We're targeting July 14th. We think we can get everything pulled together between May and June and bring that to this committee. And then Route 100, so Manchester Road closures. I don't think there's anyone in the room that doesn't know that the road closed on May 2nd, and we've seen vehicles driving through neighborhoods and other things. I know with police and public works assistance, I think it's gotten better. You know, it's certainly better this week than it was last week. I know MoDOT's done some improvements on their behalf. You know, they put some additional signs up, and they continue to make improvements. If we notify them of something that looks incorrect or is difficult, like the entrance from Manchester to Arby's and the properties east of there, they made accommodations. You know, they moved the Jersey barrier. So I don't know if you have any questions on that. And, oh, the 2022 Street RFP, we've got a draft of that pulled together, and then our goal is to advertise in May and bring the bids back to this committee June 9th. So there's Park Ridge and some other projects in there. We also are rebidding some of the alternates that we couldn't afford from last year's RFP. So I think we had 9 alternates last year and we did 5, and now we're bringing 4 alternates plus another 6 for a total of 10. I know we can't afford them, but it's good to know the prices now so that we can plug it into the 23 budget or 24. You know, we might have to do it over multiple cycles. I know talking to Maplewood and Ladue, they said that their costs have gone up when they got their bids, you know, 30, 40%, like everything else, you know, whether it's a loaf of bread or, you know, gallon of gasoline, everything's kind of out of control. But they just said that they've seen prices escalate. I'm anxious to see what ours are. I did notify Missouri Petroleum, that's the company that did the work on the Ladue side of McKnight. So we're meeting with them next week to get budget prices for maybe something that we could do on our side. It's not a mill and overlay, it's just a microsurfacing. So it's maybe 3/8 of an inch layer that was sprayed on and rolled. It looks like brand new asphalt, but it's basically a veneer. And then they're doing the striping on the Ladue side tonight so that they'll be done this week. But rough number, he said, you know, for one pass for the length from I-64 to Litzinger on our half was like 50,000. 2 passes would be 100,000. So that's a pretty good chunk of money. But it lasts probably 7-8 years and it extends the life. There's just one area that we were concerned with, like closer to the York Drive blinking stop sign by I-64, because there's rutting there from the weight of vehicles, you know, taking off and slowing down. That might have to be milled out and replaced before you seal it. But once we have better numbers, we can bring them back to the committee just to let you know. And then what else? Oh, I'll look into that McKnight crosswalk, because I believe we said we couldn't put it on the post, but maybe we can find an area to put some smaller posts on both sides, you know, with the arrow. Because we do have those at like Harrison, I know, near McGrath and other areas. And then what else? Oh, the color temperature of the lights. Did you want to talk about that? It's not on here.
If you want to talk now.
Yeah, the way the lights are designed and the way the electrical engineer and designers designed the spacing was around a 4,000 Kelvin temperature, you know, color temperature bulb. And it's not out of character to put that next to a roadway. You want an increased color temperature along a roadway like that. That's what Maplewood uses. So if we were to dumb ours down to say 3,000, you're still gonna have 4,000 once you go east of Hanley. And I know I talked to TWM, they said that lights are already ordered, that's what's in the spec, that's what you're getting. If you wanted to try replacing the bulbs in the future, because they won't, you know, there may be, I don't know, 80,000 hour lifespan, you will replace them over the lifespan of the light. So you could try to change them there. You know, 4,000 is what we also have in Hanley Industrial. So if you drive Strassner, if you go past Brentwood School District, Hoffman Brothers, that's what you see there. I think it's good for illuminating both the path and the roadway. It'd be interesting to see what the photometrics would, shake out if you were to put that the whole length. Would it make it so low that it's not good for all 4 lanes?
Yeah, and I remember we talked about this on Rosalie as well. I think Rosalie is 4,000.
They are,
Yeah, as
but
well.
we won't know till they're energized what it actually looks
Well,
like.
they're 0 now. Yeah.
Right. But that's what Litzinger's are too, because I looked at the project file. So, I mean, Litzinger, some of those I think have like a shield on the backside. There was more of an issue with homes that were 1.5 stories or 2-story, like some of the backscatter. But here it's all commercial, so I don't really think, whether you're Dean Team or Popeyes, it's really going to matter.
Yeah, Nancy.
Yeah, thank you for that update, and I think it might be something we want to think about if we get to more residential neighborhood lights and whether that makes a difference in the neighborhoods. But it seems like this is done all the work. It's been ordered. It seems like it's the right thing to do in this commercial area. But it's a great point for discussion for the future.
Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'm not sure I'm following you. The Kelvin is color temperature.
Yes.
You're talking about lumens. Lumens are lumens. So if it's I don't know what the lumen output of these lights are. It doesn't matter if it's a color temperature cast of 5,000 or 3,000. It just means that it's not, 5,000 is going to try to emulate daylight, a more bluish cast, and a 3,000 is going to emulate a little bit more of a nighttime sort of light. And so, lumen, I'd be curious to find out who's given us the information that a 3,000 or 4,000 Kelvin bulb is going to give you less light. They should be consistent lumens output. And then I had one other question about the Luth. I haven't walked over there in the past couple of days, so they may have removed it, but the big concrete block, has that now been replaced with what we had asked for originally, which was movable barriers?
There's type 3 barricades over there.
Okay, all
I
right.
don't know where the block went because I haven't walked that area, but I know that they removed it and they purposely left it there because they weren't done alongside of the swim club curb. And the fear was if it's a removable barricade and somebody felt anxious enough to remove it, drives down that path and then went over the curb with, say, like a passenger car, you'd probably rip the entire exhaust system out. So that's why they left the block, because you're not going to pick up that block, not 2 people, not 4 people.
Yeah, and so we didn't, the time that the block was there, because one of the reasons we approved the temporary access is to allow for free flow of public safety vehicles if needed, and they couldn't get by any material or construction area on White coming from Brentwood. So I guess, as long as that condition always stays clear, we should be okay. But
Right. The type 3 barricades are the only thing that they're leaving up at night, is my understanding. And I know that fire, when I spoke with them yesterday, they've actually used that access route. I don't know if they used the ambulance or pumper. I don't know which of the 2 vehicles, but I know they drove down it and said that it's no problem.
Just for practice, or are they?
For practice,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, Jeff, I mean, I
yeah.
walked it yesterday. The big Lego piece is up at the top of the walkway. It's off to the side, and then they have the mobile barriers there as well.
okay, so yeah, I would ask before we start to go, okay, yeah, that as far as the lighting goes, because I would definitely just make sure that we're getting correct information. Because if the lumen output is the same, then the illumination of the road doesn't matter. It just means the color cast. And then because I think what we definitely don't want to do is similar to what Nancy was alluding to with half of McKnight being paved and our half not. When you start to mix bulbs, one light, if we say, oh, let's start periodically changing them to a 3,000 Kelvin light bulb with the same lumen output, it's just going to look terrible when you've got a blue light, then a more golden light, and a blue light, mixed in. So I would I would feel better if we made a good decision going forward on what's appropriate for the look of the area that we should be doing.
Yeah, I know I have a copy of the submittal. I know it meets the spec that's in the MoDOT spec. So it's like, I'm going to go with the electrical engineers are smarter than the civil engineer and know what they're doing. So all I did was, like I said, I matched up the submittal to the spec and it meets the spec. And the folks over in Maplewood were nice enough to send us a photo of their light bulb, their replacement bulb, and I know that's a 4,000 K. I can't remember the lumens, if it was like 8,000 or whatever the number is, but it's on the box, and we can look at what that is compared to what ours is.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and so a couple things for me. I mean, I appreciate Barry's email. I mean, I learned a lot from that email about the issues and the color and everything. I mean, it sounds like that's a evolving technology. I mean, he just mentioned a couple cities that were changing, so it seems like that's evolving quickly. But, when we get to probably High School Lane, in my mind, is probably the next place we'll be putting. That would be something we'd want to look at. And especially if there is some spec out there that we need to comply with that doesn't call that out, maybe that's a time we start bringing this forward now that, maybe there's a better solution, especially with that being back in the neighborhoods. And then, Dan, you mentioned, we were talking about the egress line or road. Please tell Luth that, the Board of Aldermen only meets once a month starting now, right? So
Right, it won't be until the third week of June.
if they're coming in at the beginning of June and looking for approval to do something, they're going to be waiting a while unless we call a special meeting. So, I would be of the opinion we take that right to the board, unless it makes sense to come to Public Works first, just because it's a big decision, and I think everybody's well versed in it, and that if we're going to allow them to do it, then we'd want to do it fast. So.
Yeah, I'll make them aware of the meeting dates, because like you said, this won't happen for a while, and
Yeah.
the 27th is what's in the agreement. So if he's
Right.
wanting an extension, it would have to be between probably like next week and the week after that.
Yeah, I mean, it would be up to the mayor to call a special emergency meeting, and I just feel like that's probably unlikely. All right. Kelly, can you note that Jack Shelton has joined the meeting? All right. Welcome, Jack. All right. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
All right, Eric.
So I have a couple things from my department report. The first is Brentwood Days, and even since I wrote this memo, more fun information's come out. So the big kind of talk was the fireworks. So they talked about all the increases they've had, and this is really no shock. We've seen it in everything. Dan told me yesterday about our golf carts are 3 times the normal cost. So, I mean, those have gone up 3 times, so we're going to be doing a lot more walking this year. And even the carnival rides, they called me today, and they're having trouble finding staffing for the carnival rides, and also very similar in the same stuff as fuel costs, shipping costs, those type of things. So they're already kind of talking to us about different things. So I guess really the conversation is, how does the city want to handle it? Do we try to reduce things that we do? The fireworks in particular, I had a conversation with the company, and we could keep our budget line for this year. It would just reduce the amount of time for the fireworks. For carnival rides, it is maybe we could reduce a ride or 2. So we could do some of those things if that's what we want to do, or we just know that we're going to be a little bit more, we're going to be above our budget. So I guess that's the real question for the committee, and if there's a direction for staff.
Does anyone want to make a motion one way or the other? Or I guess it would be a motion to.
Also could be a combo of everything, like, hey, we reduce the number of golf carts so we don't go over that budget, but we maybe look at fireworks, that's kind of the big end, but we look at carnival rides. I mean, we can play this by ear as we keep getting more and more costs. My fear is just the fact that all the costs are going to be more expensive this year.
Jeff, you,
Yeah, I mean, I think that, it's a hard one to judge. I mean, I would go with your expertise as far as if we can reduce the number of carnival rides, but still include some of the most popular ones, reduce some of the other things, but and still have a good quality experience. I do agree that, maybe the fireworks are where everybody does seem to want to have a good display, and that's what I think people enjoyed the most last year, was the fact that we had a really great display. I know the circumstances were totally different, but I would recommend that we just go with your evaluation of the most popular items and maybe create a matrix that ranks them, and then focus on spending our investment there. If that needs a motion, I guess I'll make that motion.
I don't think that would be a motion because it's just to use the existing budget. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not able to make a motion, but it seems to me, I mean, this is the last time in Brentwood Sports Complex we're going to have, and when we first started talking about Madden Fest, our recommendation was to go big. My opinion is, yes, and this inflation is bad, but we should be seeing that on the sales tax coming in, and I need to go back and look at Ways and Means and see how that's tracking. I would be of the opinion the things that are resident facing, maybe not the golf carts, but the rides and the fireworks, even if it costs us more money to bring that back. I mean, our residents are excited for this thing, but that's my opinion.
And we've talked about some other things, like maybe reducing the size of the food tent that maybe doesn't get as much uses as other things. So, we can kind of look, we can kind of balance the budget in different ways. So we definitely keep looking at those type of things. I think the two big ones are going to be the fireworks and the carnival rides. Now, the fireworks is $3,000. I figure we can handle that within the budget somewhere. It really will be whatever the carnival rides come back with, and that's the one that scares me a little bit.
Yeah, so when's the timing that you need an answer for this? Is this something you need an answer tonight, or can you noodle with it a little bit more and then?
I know the fireworks wants an answer by June, but I think if I went back to them and said, look, we're going to do a display, whether it's reduced time or we're going to just take, eat the cost. I think that would be good enough for them, and that would give us some more time to hear back from the carnival rides and some of the other vendors I know that Public Works is working with right now.
So then I would make a motion that we spend the full amount that we had budgeted, or any small percentage of increase necessary to keep the fireworks display parity with our previous years, and then put everything else on hold until we get more information.
Sounds good.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Jack. All right, any other conversations?
No, I'll just say that one thing that I think is nice is you sounded like you were going to try to do some craft booths and expand it a little bit differently. So it is sort of the same Brentwood Days, but yet you have some new ideas going on. So that might help if we have to drop one of the carnival rides or the crazy house or the thing that I slipped on one time. You could drop that one.
Right, and we'll obviously make sure that the alcohol vendors keep the beer prices. That's key.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 All right.
Okay, a couple Hanley Park updates is one is the Hanley Park Dog Park water fountain. We basically were notified that the water fountain had broken, and it was apparent there was a substantial leak, and unfortunately it was underneath the concrete. So it's either a cracked pipe or a broken water line. So we demoed the concrete foundation. Even in the past couple days, we did some additional digging. We think we can locate the leak, which is good because that means we don't have to call out the plumber now. And we're hoping that maybe even by the end of this week or early next week, we'll have that repaired. So just in time for warm weather. So moving on that one.
Okay, thank you.
And then one of the things we've talked about is the Hanley Park Pavilion and parking lot design. And so it's kind of worked out well with Brentwood Bound, so we'd like SWT to kind of come present what we're looking at as far as design for the future. This obviously is not a budget item anytime soon, but at least it kind of gives us the marching orders. If that's okay, we'll have them come next month. We're real excited about the design, so hopefully everyone else will be as well. A couple year delay might help with the decreasing more of the cost again, and we'll see that come down a little bit. I know there's been some talk about whether or not we need to shut down the dog park, and I don't see us needing to do that, because obviously it'll be the parking lot toward the pavilion side. So the dog park should be able to stay open. There won't be any parking. But we will also be doing that between October and March, when we'll have less usage in the dog park, hopefully. So we don't see that being a big issue right now.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. It was a rumor somebody heard from somebody who heard from somebody.
Sure.
My theory is that they were looking at the old parks comprehensive plan, and there was a pavilion there.
Yeah, probably.
And so they weren't worried about short-term closure, but like permanent closure. So,
Nope.
okay, with that confirmation, I can start batting down that rumor.
Perfect.
I see it. Thanks.
And then one more small thing that wasn't on here, but I know it was asked, I don't know if you guys know it, it's rained a lot this year. And that's made it very difficult for ball field preparation and maintenance of our sports complex. And just for some fun, we ran some numbers. It started with that 7 inches of snow in February. We had 3 other snow events in February. And then here's where it really hurts, is that when we got to March, we had 2 flood events in Brentwood Sports Complex. So while we're all happy that nothing flooded in Brentwood Bound, the sports complex will still flood. I'm hoping that we'll see it be mitigated some when we're done with Brentwood Bound. Hopefully the water gets down the creek quicker into our lake and other places. But obviously, Brentwood Park Sports Complex is a floodplain, and it is made to pick up water. And so that's happened. So that happened March 6th and March 30th. So as we just start to recover from March 6th, here comes March 30th. It also rained half of the days in March. In April, we had participation 21 of 30 days in April. So basically, we had 9 days of just dry weather. And, it wasn't as bad. We didn't have as much rain, but we're at the point where our fields were so wet, any rain really kind of dealt us in. And then we top off May with another flood event on May 5th. So we have just been fighting water in Brentwood Parks, Brentwood Sports Complex right now. We are so excited to have this week of dry weather. So we've been able to get games in all this week. This is our 4th week of softball. The first week was rained out. Second week we played. Third week rained out. And now we're playing this week. And we hope we'll trend in a different way coming up. But that's kind of where we're at right now. And it's just been a rough spring for all of us involved.
Is there, we're maintaining the fields though, right? Despite all the rain and everything, we treat for weeds, and those are the things I'm hearing from residents is like they're.
We are, and I know there was a resident comment that came through Alderman Gould, he forwarded on, and we talked about some invasive species, and part of it is that it is, when you're dealing with a ball field complex like that, you can't really just treat the whole field. You basically have to specifically treat each plant. And so we do that on a regular basis, and we try to do that in between any other day it rains. It's been difficult this year because, as I mentioned, we just haven't had a whole lot of dry days. On top of that, every time it floods, we get the invasive species from the creek banks and that basically come into the park. So anytime we try to kill it off, ultimately it's going to be reintroduced into the park. And so that's kind of what we deal with on a regular basis, Having ball fields in a floodplain is great because you can hold a lot of water when you need it, but it also makes it difficult to maintain. Can we solve it? As I always say, we can solve anything with money. And my goal is once, hopefully Brentwood's Bound's done, and we kind of see what the water pattern is for a few events after that, is then maybe able to can we figure out a better way to get water running through the sports complex so that we have a better field turf situation. So that's our goal. That's something we've been talking about, but we want to see what happens with Brentwood Bound when that's completely done.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from anybody for Eric on that? Okay.
So last, I was going to do a presentation about turf management because I know that's been brought up. Again, I know Alderman Gould is interested in that topic, and I feel bad doing a presentation if Alderman Gould's not here. I'm happy to do it, or if we want to push it to next month, I can do that as well. I'll do whatever the board, the committee wants me to do.
I would suggest we push it because he's literally walking on turf right now, so, you know. Is that okay with you, Jeff?
That'd be okay with me, yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's obviously a very long-term goal and plan that it's not like it's an immediate rush.
Okay, all right.
All right, thank
All
you very
right,
much.
thanks, Eric. All right, move on to planning and development. Whitney? I don't have anything. Okay, and then Suscom?
The, the agenda said Bola was gonna present this, but she's not here, so we were deciding and I won. So we have called the restaurants. Only one indicated a strong interest and would follow up with the GDA. The others just kind of seemed interested according to the spreadsheet that's in the packet. There were several that were not interested at all. So that's all I have to report. Yeah.
Okay. You look like you were getting ready to talk. Sorry. No. Well, I mean, you know, I appreciate you guys going out and getting this. Again, I think this is about the future, not about the current. I'm happy to hear Maize and Wheat is interested in this, but you know, I'll go back. Our residents always say we want restaurants like Maplewood and restaurants like this, and I feel like this is a marketing thing that is zero risk, because if nobody does it, then it costs us nothing, and if you know, restaurants do, then hopefully we're putting a flag up that says these are the kind of restaurants we're interested in, especially in the Manchester area. Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, hey, first of all, thank you for following up and calling on all the restaurants. I appreciate the due diligence on that. I agree with you to the extent of this is an incentive or future restaurant and development that we're going to have potentially. I do like that it's now a rebate, not just an automatic reduction in their fees. So, you know, I would be comfortable, given the fact that we just probably need to get something started. I would be comfortable making a motion that we initiate the program and offer a $100 rebate for anyone who wants to participate.
I'll second.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, great. Wonderful. Thanks, everybody. We did it.
We do at this meeting.
All right, let's move into item 7A, consent agenda. All we have is meeting minutes there.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, any other comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. All right, we'll move into old business. So this is, Nancy asked for this, and just getting some clarification on pervious pavement, permeable driveways. And Whitney, this was before your time, then we talked about this. So I think it is a good idea just to make sure we're clear in what we're telling our developers and people that are redoing driveways of what their options are.
Yes. So in looking back at the minutes, this was last discussed in January of 14th of 2021. The current code does allow for it. What the zoning regulations require is that driveways must be paved with durable, dust-free, load-bearing surface and may not exceed an area equal to 40% and no wider than 24 inches. Elsewhere in the code, it talks about that it is a all-weather, dustless, load-bearing material suitable suitably designed for the intended use, with adequate storm drainage facilities to present, present, and there also needs to be a compacted base as approved by the building division. So it's throughout the code that we do allow it. Elsewhere, under parking on private property, it does state that it's a required, pavement is a surface that is asphalt, concrete, or other durable load-bearing material as approved by the building department. Excuse me. So it is currently allowed. I thought the discussion, although it wasn't clear what motion was needed or what needed to be pursued, but there was discussion that we could clarify it even further. If you do permeable pavers, that does take a special number of inspections, because you have to have inspections of the base, compacted base and sand that holds the water underneath, and it has to be engineered specifically for that. There is a concern that long-term maintenance is also an issue, in that if they don't have annual maintenance, then it clogs up and acts as normal impervious. So, but right now the code does allow for it. We do know of one house that was approved and was recently inspected and finalized. That was started before our current building official came on board, but finished when he was here. So a lot of the impediment is the cost of such material. So it's not widely used on a residential basis.
But a resident would have the choice. It would be their choice. If they would pay more, they would go through the extra steps. But if they wanted it, they could use it.
Yes, and that would it was allowed under the situation, so they didn't have to do like a detention basin or others to meet with the stormwater, so they didn't go over the 200 square foot threshold that a stormwater permit would be required. But then that system required extra inspections.
Okay. Yeah, Nancy.
So I have a question about that particular situation. Then do we continue to inspect their driveway once it's in and make sure it's clean so that it actually does what it's supposed to do?
No, that's left up to the homeowner. We don't have anything like that for the inspections. I know that with the city of Creve Coeur, they recently adopted the use of provide greater regulations on the use of it, and actually defined it within their allowed coverage. They do coverage differently than we do here in Brentwood. And so only half of the pervious area is counted towards impermeable, and then the other half is pervious. So and then they require that it be set as part of any indentures on the property, so that any change of ownership, and it just says that they have to maintain it. We don't go out and inspect it, but then when it's in the indentures on the property, then any change of ownership, they become aware of it. But we don't have any way of going back out and inspecting.
So on the one that we've done, I know with the stormwater management, aren't there supposed to be indentures with the home to maintain the stormwater runoff situations?
It's not indentures, it's just part of the stormwater improvement permit. I'm not sure about the indentures, I'd have to check. I'm not clear on what was actually, because there was a transition of staff during the middle of this, but we don't have a mechanism to go back out and re-inspect every year.
Yeah, so I think fundamentally these are great, and we should do everything we can to support them, but I also think we need to figure out how to do them well, and if somebody spends the money to put this in but then doesn't maintain the surface, or if the house sells and then the new owner decides to, they don't maintain it or they rip it out. I guess if they ripped it out, then they'd have to come back.
Yeah.
But I somehow thought with the stormwater, somebody else help me remember, I thought with the stormwater runoff language, they are required to maintain it, and that goes with the house, not with the particular owner.
Yeah, as part of the permit it would, but we don't go out, I believe, we don't go out and do any inspections after, annual inspections of those. We just don't have the staff or the ability just to go back out and re-inspect them. I mean, when they get the permit and it's been permitted, it says it shall be maintained. But that's up to the homeowner too.
So is the only, I'm thinking about the driveway, is the only driveway that would be allowed sort of the one there was a photo of with the different levels, and that's sort of the only pervious driveway that would be allowed? Because the code's sort of vague.
It is, outside of parking surfaces, it's not clear. Because the code doesn't regulate coverage as an entity for the entire property. There's the building coverage, and then there's the driveway coverage, which is 40% of the front yard or 40% of the rear yard. But people could put in patio areas outside of that, and we don't have a regulation for that. So if they use this for that, then we consider, yeah, we need to see the permitting, because if you're, outside of, once you've had 200 square feet of site coverage, then it requires a new stormwater permit. So if you're trying to avoid that, then we need the permit. We need to approve it as part of the permeable paver system and show that it's actually functioning, that it's designed for that intent.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like this is an issue not specific necessarily to the permeable driveways, because if somebody puts a dry well in, which is one of the recommended BMPs, I just pulled it up.
Yeah.
And they're not maintaining that, you could have the same issue right there as well.
Yeah, so I haven't gotten into how those long-term permits are reviewed. I mean,
Was it not am I making up that we're supposed to look at them every other year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the guide here, and it's, maintenance and inspections during construction, 1 year after construction of the BMP is completed, and 3-year intervals after the 1-year inspection.
Yeah, so I knew we had something in there. So I guess these are the early
Yeah.
ones, so they haven't been re-inspected. But we are re-inspecting, so we should be re-inspecting these.
Could be
you
that just didn't know we had to do that.
Yeah, didn't
When you
know
haven't
we
had-
had to do that.
You haven't
And
had the
how
interval
we
yet,
keep
probably.
track of those in 3 years, we'll have to figure something out.
Well, I guess my question is, I feel like encouraging these kind of driveways is good. And especially as larger homes are being built on smaller lots and they're trying to get a driveway in, and it's just a way to let water go elsewhere. And they're clearly allowed, but is this enough structure that it's allowed and they're allowed under the stormwater permit? Or would somebody put one in separate from the stormwater permit and then it's just there, and then the city has no ability to look at it?
But is that a bad thing necessarily? I mean, if you're outside of the stormwater permit and you want to do this just to improve your own property and you decide not to maintain it, then
I guess that's true. It wouldn't matter. Yeah.
it's,
Well, then they still, if it's over 200 square feet of coverage, then it does require
right.
a permit. But whether or not it requires stormwater review by the engineer and that kind of review. But if they're trying to get away from the 200 square feet of coverage by using this, then we wouldn't issue then we may not issue a permit for it, because it's not, or they could install it on their own and we would never know.
Is this something that maybe should be added as a BMP as part of the stormwater management thing? Best
It is
practice?
listed as part of our, it is listed in the best managed BMP document that's on our website, and that's what is included. It's one of the discussions of what you can do to prevent stormwater runoff is a permeable pavement system. So it is already listed as an option.
Well, if that's the case, I mean, I brought this up because a neighbor talked to me about it, and I'm like, oh, we talked about this, and I think they have to be paved. So brought it back, and we never really resolved it, but it sounds like they're allowed.
They're allowed.
And most people are, the only person that we know of that's done it is doing it as part of a BMP, which, even though it hasn't yet been re-inspected, will be re-inspected and maintained. So it sounds like this is allowed, and maybe it's not an issue.
Yeah. But I think we let Whitney know that
I now know.
your inspector's out in like 3 years.
New calendars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Set an Outlook reminder. But I agree, I think this is technology that would help our town. I mean, we're dealing with stormwater all the time, everywhere, and, people should know that this is something they could do if they wanted to. Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thanks, Whitney. All right, we're going to 9A, Eric, Parks Master System Master Plan.
So yeah, this is just something we've kind of had a little discussion about, but kind of formalized discussion, which is what should we do with the park system master plan? And mainly because things have happened since we approved the plan in 2015. You think about the Hanley Park Dog Park, the sports corridor project that did the basketball court instead of tennis, the Rogers Parkway Greenway expansion plan, and a little something called Brentwood Bound. And obviously Brentwood Bound's the big one, and that really kind of changes the focus, I think, of the rest of the park system. You think about, we have, beautiful playgrounds, so do you really want a all-inclusive big playground in Memorial Park? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. A splash pad, again, in Memorial Park, does that seem to be a little bit silly since we have that beautiful thing down? And all those things make sense. And so there's a couple things we could do. One is we can just kind of go through the last couple of years and make our best case judgment, but that's probably not the least recommended. One is we can update the current master plan and say, hey, these specific sections, Hanley Park, Northwest Park, now Brentwood Park, and those things will be changed based on these updated plans. The Greenway, the Roger Parkway Greenway would be the other one. Or we can kind of take all this in consideration with the fact that in a few years, we're looking at possibly some parkland expansion, the area south of Bi-State, which was approved by the board already. So do we look at that and just say, hey, maybe it's now the time, it's not been 10 years, but maybe now's the time to redo the master plan so we refocus on what's happened, especially with Brentwood Bound, and move forward. My recommendation would be to redo the master plan, but obviously that is a committee decision.
Yeah, I'll start, but I think we should absolutely redo it. There have been some changes. It's like an asteroid hit the planet of Parks Master Planning and destroyed everything, right? Everything's different now.
Yeah.
My only personal hesitation is there's also one other question mark. I think it's public knowledge that we are talking to Mount Cav, and there's another component that's probably a big component that's going to be coming in, maybe, to the plan. And I would think we'd want to wait until we have whether that is or is not happening, so that would be part of it. But I think our residents love when they get to come up and throw ideas out. You're going to hear that we need 1,000 pickleball courts and get the priority back on the skate park and things like that. So I'm a fan of kind of redoing it and going through the workshops and getting community involved and everything. I think it's a great exercise for the city. My only concern is just the timing right now while we still have that big question mark out there.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't want to mention Mount Calvary because I know it's been discussed, but I know it's still kind of a subject. But I think the idea is that if we did this, we'd be looking as a future budget item. So my hope would be that if we can find funding for next year's budget or 24, we'd have an answer to that question, which to me is also another big question. So it would also change what people think of different amenities in different places as well. So I would think that if we do it, if we do the budget next year, we can always start near the end of the year if that project expands longer than we hope it does.
Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm about to have to drop off here, guys, but I'm glad we got to this and I was able to chime in. I totally agree with you, Alderman Wegge. I think that I'm not precious about the fact that it hasn't been 10 years. Usually do it, every 10 years. I think if given the circumstances, we should start planning for budgeting for it as soon as we possibly can. I would echo the, one of the largest or most popular items that residents asked for the last time was a skate park. So I think we need to definitely make sure that that's part of the plan somewhere. And I would even sacrifice potentially or even reevaluate whether or not the Rogers Parkway expansion is actually necessary, given the fact that Brentwood Bound is such a major park. I think it's important that we start to reevaluate and then reimagine it and put a new plan together.
So that sounds like a motion to start thinking about it for next year's budget.
Yeah,
All right,
and
if you need that motion.
since that was a motion, I'll second it. And I can't agree more. I think the whole park system's totally transformed. And you said the word pickleball. I have 2 residents who every time I see them, like the only thing they say to me is, "We need pickleball. We need pickleball." Like that's all I ever hear from these people. So I think we're also going to may have some totally different priorities than we had a few years
Correct.
ago. So
I would agree.
Jack, any comments?
Nope, I'm all good. I agree with you guys. I'm on board.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. All right. Thanks. Good luck, Jeff. Yell at Sloan.
Thank you. Your daughter is right.
Hey,
right there.
Sloan. Thanks for finding her
All right.
glove.
Yes. See you guys.
All right. Up next, 9B, request for ADA pickup space in Brentwood Forest.
Yeah, this one's kind of a strange one. I don't know if you've heard or received any questions about this. I still don't really know the exact origin of, I know I read the background, but I went out there a couple different times, and I also pulled the different ordinances with both Richmond Heights and with us. And I know that on the north side of the road, you know, for everyone to make a little bit clearer, but the north half of that particular road of Eager between Brentwood Boulevard and Chafford Woods is Richmond Heights. So I know I looked at their code and they don't have, they don't allow parking on that north side. So basically from Chafford Woods going east, and they actually make reference to Manhasset Village, which doesn't exist anymore, but we all know where it used to be. And then they also call out no parking basically from their city limits going west of Brentwood Boulevard to a point of the northward extension of the west line. And then it says Bob O' Link. It's actually Bobolink, but this is like a man's name, you know, an Irish man, but it's kind of funny. And then whenever I looked at ours, we actually have an ordinance that was more recently done. It's ordinance number 4712 that was passed May 16th, 2016. And we actually prohibit parking on the south side from the Brentwood Court Apartments driveway to a point 27 feet east, as well as a point 27 feet west of that same driveway. And then also on Eager Road, the south side from Oriole to a point 27 feet east. So there are no parking signs there. And I went out and took photos, and there's actually an ADA sign that's already there that's also part of a speed limit sign. So I guess I'm sort of confused as to why I would need to do something here. I'll have to get with, I guess, the Magic Bus driver or somebody to figure out what the actual problem is, because if you look at the photo, there's a blue placard with the ADA symbol, and it's right to the west of the pool, and it's right by Eager Road. So if people aren't parked there, which they shouldn't be because it's prohibited by ordinance, and if there would be a car, I would think you just call the police and have them ticketed or towed or whatever. The only other thing I thought that might be useful that we could do that's pretty cheap is to paint yellow along the curb within that area that you're not supposed to park. Maybe that would make it a little more evident. So I guess I'll have to get with the Magic Bus driver or maybe Alderwoman O'Neill to figure out if that area is designated no parking. Is that not big enough for the van, or is it not sufficient for the person that's getting in? I have to figure out which is the actual root cause of the problem. Is it?
Yeah, Jack.
Yeah, I can jump in and try to provide some color. So as Dan said, I think this came from Alderwoman O'Neill, and I walk by there every day and do understand and have seen the Magic Bus. It has to kind of stop with its flashers on the south side of Eager. But I think, Dan, as you're mentioning, I know this almost seems more of kind of a public safety issue. I know we've talked with Chief Spees a couple times about the enforcement of those no parking signs. The real issue is that obviously on the north side is the Evo Apartments, and then also they're beginning construction on 102 townhomes. So unfortunately, I think the problem's only going to compound from here. But and the Brentwood Court really only has, they have underground garage parking, but from my understanding, they charge a fee for that. So those spots up in front of Brentwood Court are in high demand for their residents. And then I know the Evo residents across the street also often take their spots. So we've had a couple residents reach out to us, especially if you're familiar with the area going northbound on Oriole, trying to make a turn right or left. It's hard to see oncoming traffic. So I think, Dan, as you mentioned, I think, you know, the signage is there. I think this may be more of an issue of enforcement. And I think if anything, if maybe we can direct staff to reach out to that property owner. I believe their name is listed on the sign. I walked by it the other day. I think it's Iremco. They're the management company of the Brentwood Court Apartments, and talk with them. My concern is that if we add any sort of striping or anything, it's going to only kind of create further issues for their parking. I will admit that I don't know kind of the frequency that the Magic Bus makes trips there, if it's for one resident or multiple residents, but I have in fact seen the issue that Kathy notes. I'm just not sure, like you said, Dan, kind of what our solution is here, other than kind of enforcing what we already have, which I know we've talked with Chief Speece and Major Hawkins about, and I know that they're trying to keep an eye on. So just to add some color there, and I think we just maybe need to. My suggestion would maybe if we can follow up with public safety about this, or if maybe staff can reach out to that property owner and let them know if they've heard any complaints, or kind of see what their thoughts are on it.
Yeah, here comes Eric.
So the one weird thing about this too is that the Parks and Rec Department staff has not heard about this issue. So, unfortunately, I got back from vacation this week, hadn't had the time to talk to staff a little bit more to delve into this. So we could also, seems like it's our bus driver, we can talk to our bus driver about it as well, and, get some more information on this topic for either public safety or next month here.
Yeah, we can follow up with Kathy or Alderwoman O'Neill about it. And, just from firsthand experience, I don't know if it didn't sound like it was anything that a resident kind of brought to the attention, but, just for the bus safety and the, I guess, resident safety, it's maybe just something that, in my opinion, I think it's more of a thing that we just need the police to kind of keep an eye on and make sure that those people are adhering to the signs we already have posted. And to reiterate what Dan already said, I think we've placed as much signage as we can. Albeit if we talk to the management company or the owner of the Brentwood Court Apartments, if they are interested in us furthering that. My concern is just that the parking problem is already severe enough, and Brentwood Forest kind of polices itself and places stickers on people that aren't supposed to be parking in that neighborhood. So I think we might be opening a can of worms if we start taking away. We might be creating more problems than we are doing any good, is my thought on it. But
All right, Dan, do you think, and Dan and Eric, I guess, clear?
I believe so. Yeah, we'll certainly reach out. I know Parks will talk to their folks, and then I can talk to the apartment complex, see if they've ever experienced it, and if it's, one resident, is it two? Like I said, right now, this is on the books for no parking. Maybe we just need to make it a little bit clearer, and, and if people continue to park there and violate it, then it would be a police enforcement.
Right.
So I think we're good.
Okay, sound good, Jack?
all good. Thank you, guys.
Great. All right, we'll move into 9C, Guaranteed Energy Savings Contract. All right.
So this is me and coming out of Sustainability Commission. So last year's Sustainability Commission wanted to conduct an energy audit of all of the city facilities, and trying to find an RFQ for that was difficult. I was trying to reach out to different places, but I called a couple other municipalities who we thought had done something similar, and they kind of turned us on into the idea of the Guaranteed Energy Savings Contract. I guess under Missouri State Statute 8.231, we can enter in contract for facility improvement measures to reduce energy consumption and operating costs. So it's basically, it's a way to make sure that the plan doesn't sit on the shelf, basically. So it's idea of like, hey, energy audits are great, but then this also will help you ensure that you complete the plan. Now, the contractor basically is paid through, the first couple of years through the savings in the energy consumption, and you basically only pay what is guaranteed, for what you will save. And then once, you know, you get through that, then the city reaps the benefit of the energy savings. So we thought it was a decent idea, took it to Sustainability Commission, they agreed. There are two ways you can do this. One is we can put out an RFQ, but because, you know, Missouri kind of took the lead on this, they've also have a couple companies under the purchasing cooperative. So we could kind of get this moving right now. We have money in sustainability initiatives for the year and utilize some of that funding. Obviously, we could talk to one of the companies and before we sign the contract, come back maybe next month to say, hey, this is how much it's going to be for it. Ultimately, it shouldn't be anything since we're saving the money before we do it. So ultimately, we shouldn't see anything. But again, this is, we think, a better way to go instead of just maybe putting another plan on the shelf.
Yeah, Nancy?
So I think it's great. So I do have a question. So say they come in and say that they want to replace the fluorescent lights with LEDs, then it's expensive to replace the whole light fixture. So then does the city, where do their savings come in? Is it just the electric use, or is it, do we somehow net out the cost of the actual fixtures?
Two things is that one is they get paid through the energy consumption savings. So that their job is to make sure they do a good job because they want to reap the benefit as well. And more than anything else, they're not making a lot of money. This is a green initiative that people, altruistic people have taken on. But secondarily, they also have a number of contacts with different contractors who basically will help us get the best price for all this work as well. And so they're the ones who are helping us find those people, get those contracts put in place, bid out the projects we need to bid out, and all that other stuff. So you kind of think of them as kind of like your green navigate building solutions.
Great. Are you comfortable with the state, the company on the state purchasing list?
I am. If you look at Baldwin, Maplewood, O'Fallon, Richmond Heights, Shrewsbury, they've all used one specific company who's pretty well known. And so, you know, we need to obviously reach out to them and figure out some more nuts and bolts. I didn't want to go down that route. If you guys wanted to go, you know, do something different, you know, go the energy audit route. But everyone said, hey, if you talk to Venergy is their name, they're the ones who walked us through this thing, and the reason we are saving money on energy is because we were able to utilize the state contract.
Make a motion to enter into an agreement with, or have staff look into a guaranteed guaranteed energy savings contract.
Using the purchasing cooperative, right?
Using the state's purchasing cooperative.
I'll second it. It seems like a good thing for us to piggyback on.
Yeah, great. I think this is great. It's like free money, in my opinion. And I mean, great for the earth and everything, but I think it's great for the city because it kind of future-proofs us as energy prices go up and down. I mean, it's smart. So, all right. All those in favor of proceeding? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, great. All right. We're up to citizen comment number 2. All right. Seeing no new business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Jack, for calling in. I appreciate your flexibility. All right.
Thanks, guys.